Hello everyone, welcome to another lecture on C++ programming language. We are on lecture 24 and in this lecture we're gonna write another program in C++ using if else statement. In this lecture we write a program which asks the user to enter a character, an English alphabet from the keyboard. Then in the program, we check if that letter which is entered by the user is it a consonant or vowel letter. So before I begin writing this program, please pause this video, go to your computer and write this program. Try your best. If you fail for the first time, try the second time, try the third time. But if you need help, so then come back and watch this video. So let's write this program in C++. So we are on lecture 24 on C++. So let's write our program. So we start from include IO stream. So first we need to include the input-output stream library because we use cin or cout, which is those objects are inside this library, and then we using namespace std, which is C++ standard library. Then we declare our main function, integer main. This is our main function. We open the curly braces for the main function and we close the curly brace for the main function. And then at the end of the program, we have the last statements in our program, which is return 0. And that tells the operating system that our program is successfully executed. So now, our objective is to take a user input. What is the input? The input is a character. So we need to declare a variable and the data type should be char. I put this variable, the name of this variable later. So it means char later. So we cout, and ask the user enter an alphabet later. Then we close our colon, we close our string. So we open our string and we close. Now, when the user enters that alphabet, that later, we store that later or character inside the variable later. cn later. And now, this is the time to check our logic using if else statement. So we know the vowel letter in English, the vowel letters in English are it's A, E, I, O, U. So we need to check if the input, which is entered by the user, one of these alphabets. So we write here if later, so let's write here we can check if later is equal to single quotation A, or later is equal to E, or we use OR, logical OR operator, to combine our conditions. And if later is If later is equal, we use equal operators, equality operators. So I put, we put the character inside single quotation, then or later is equal to O, or later is equal to, like again, or later is equal to U. And then or later is, we check for a small letter as well. Later is equal to a small a, or later is equal to small e, or later is equal to small I. We put inside single quotation, or later is equal to small o, or later is equal to small u. Now we open the curly braces for the if block and we close that. And inside this we say cout, later is vowel, quotation, end line. And now we write our else part. We open, the block of else, and then we close the block of else. Else, if the condition is not true, so the else part or the else section will be executed. So cout, we say later is consonant. End line. So this is a program which checks if the letter or the character which is entered by the user, is it a vowel letter or consonant? So first we define a variable called letter, and the data type is char, because we need to take only one character from the user. And then we print out a message for the user that it asks the user to enter an alphabet letter. Then when user enters that alphabet or that character, it will be stored inside the variable later. And now using if else, we check the condition. If the letter is equal to a, if the user enters a, or the user enters e, or the user enters I, capital I, or the user enters capital O, or the user enters, the capital U. And also we need to check, or the user enters the small a, or the user enters the small e, if the user enters the small I, or the user enters the small o, or the user enters the small u. So if the user enters one of these vowel letters, either capitals or small letter, so the condition becomes true. Once the condition becomes true, so the if block will be executed, and we cout for the user that the letter is a vowel. Otherwise, if the user enters a character like, like W, so that W is not a vowel letter, and we check here, so now the else part will be executed because the condition becomes false, and now we cout and we tell the user the letter is consonant. Sorry, here cout, later is consonant. You should, use the insertion operator here. So this is a program which checks, if the user enters a vowel letter or consonant letter. So here we use the OR operator. Why we use the OR operator? If one of these conditions becomes true, So the result of OR operator is true. And also be careful that in C++, C++ is a case-sensitive language. So when you enter E or enter small e, so it's different because this one is capital and this one is small letter. So this was a good example of using if-else statement to check if the user enters a vowel letter or consonant letter. So now it's time for practice, and let's go and write this program in our computers. Yeah, so I'm back in my computer, so let's open our IDE. We are on lecture 24 on C++, lecture 24, and we write a program which checks if the letter or character is entered by the user, is it a vowel letter or is it a consonant? So let's write our program. So first we define a character variable called C, and then we see out, we say enter a character, then cn, we store that character inside C variable, and then we check if C is equal to A, or we can use, OR operator, logical OR operator. Also, let me, or C is equal to E, I, O, U. And also I add here the, this is the small letter vowel, so we can check for the capital letter vowel as well. So we need to write here, or C is equal to, so C is equal to capital A, or C is equal to capital E, capital I, capital O, capital U. Then, if user enters one of those characters, so we see out here, we say C is a vowel letter. And then we endline. Else, we see out, we tell C is a consonant letter. And now let's compile and run our program. Enter a character. I enter capital E. It says E is a vowel letter. And now if I run and compile again and I enter L, and it says L is a consonant letter. The same way, if I enter a small letter E, and it says E is a vowel letter. So this is a program in C++ which checks if the user enters a character from the keyboard, that is a vowel letter or that is a consonant letter. So it was, today lecture 24, and I hope you enjoyed from this lecture, and see you on the next lecture. Thank you.